Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. They call it one of the best weekends of the year for a reason. Conference Championship Week certainly lived up to the hype. We had some big-time upsets. We saw some classic matchups. And the College Football Playoff Committee is certainly going to have a major decision to make here in just a few hours. So as always, guys, we are here to break down all of the action. We are going to recap every single conference championship game. We're going to take a look at our predictions, and we're going to take a look at our top 6 teams that, of course, will be decided, will be released in the Playoff Committee's final set of rankings here in just a few hours. So let's go ahead and get started, guys. Our final weekly recap of the year, because remember, bowl season starts on Monday. So last one of the year before bowl predictions. We're going to take a look at our predictions first here, then the teams. Looking up here, we're 8-1 on the money line, 8-1 straight up. And remember, our records up here are solely based on our preseason predictions. So we do not include conference championship predictions. And we've never done that. We have never included conference championship predictions in the final straight up record. We haven't done that for 4 years now. And right now it's not going to change. So 8-1 in the games that were not conference championship games. Brings our total of 250-71 on the year, which is 77.9%, which is the best straight-up record we have ever had here at the Gridiron Expert. We have slowly but surely gotten better each year. This year, 2020, the wildest year of them all, so happened to be the best season for us. Against the spread, 4-5. One game hurt us across the board. One game prevented us from having an undefeated week straight up. One game prevented us from having a winning record against the spread. UCLA, thank you so much for somehow managing to blow a 14-point lead with under 3 minutes left and losing 48-47 to Stanford in double overtime. Absolutely wild ending. Not many people watched it because it was going on right in the middle of the SEC championship. But if you had UCLA like we did, favored by just 7 points, that was one of the worst bad beats of the week, one of the worst bad beats of the year. Bruins should have had that game, and certainly we're not too happy about that, preventing us from having a 9-0 week, preventing us from having a winning week against the spread. But nonetheless, 79-70 overall in the year, 53%. We promised you all we would hit 53% or better by season's end. We're at that mark now. We will be above that mark by the time the season is over, because we are going to predict every single bowl game against the spread, and those will be given to everybody that does sign up for our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. So, okay, we got that out of the way. Let's take a look at our top 6 teams first, very briefly. Then we'll break down some quick in-game action, what happened in every championship game from Friday to Saturday. Looking at the top 6 here, guys, look, it's pretty cut and dry. I would be shocked if this was not the top 4 here in a few hours when the committee releases their rankings. It might not be necessarily in this order. But Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, and I believe it will be in this order, but these are the top 4 teams that should be going to the College Football Playoff. Alabama, obviously a no-brainer. They're undefeated. They won the SEC. They're in, and they should remain number 1 until proven otherwise. Clemson, they're number 2. They beat Notre Dame 34-10. Got their revenge over the Fighting Irish. It was number 2 Notre Dame, number 3 Clemson. They are certainly going up a spot. Not enough to jump Alabama, but they will be number 2. So that, to me, is set. Alabama 1, Clemson 2. Everybody said, there are 2 spots left, 3 teams fighting for it. It's number 3, number 4, and it would be a battle between Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M fighting for that last spot. And look, I don't necessarily agree with Ohio State being in the playoff. We said that before, and everybody's going to call me an Ohio State hater. They're going to say I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't fully agree with it because, again, Ohio State has played 6 games, while Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame have all played 11. So you're looking at an Ohio State team that's played basically half a season. Everybody else has played practically a full season. I get that's not the Buckeyes' fault, but again, the playoff committee has punished other teams for that. They have chosen not to do that for Ohio State. But regardless, this is a good Buckeyes team, and they are going to the College Football Playoff. Whether you like it or not, they're going to be in there. The Buckeyes, they took down Northwestern. We'll touch more on that game in a second. Wasn't the prettiest game, wasn't the most impressive game, but they got the job done and won the Big Ten. So an undefeated Ohio State team that has yet to be punished by the committee so far this year, I don't see how they're going to get punished this time around and get left out of the playoff. I just don't see it happening. So they should be in at 3. They were 4 to begin with. They should be in at 3. Notre Dame, we have at number 4. I will be livid if Notre Dame is left out of the college football playoff. We said that to make sure they go, they had to win. They didn't do that. But we said even if they lose, they should stay in. The Fighting Irish, they were 10-0. They were undefeated. They just took their first loss of the year to Clemson. We know that, and we know Clemson was fully healthy, unlike they were the first time Notre Dame beat them. So many people think that maybe A&M should get in above the Fighting Irish. What I look at here, though, guys, is strength of schedule, quality of wins. A&M has one ranked win, that win over Florida, who, yes, made the SEC championship, yes, played Alabama close, but Florida, who is now a 3-loss team, 8-3, and really, as we all know, should not be 7th in the country, should not have been 7th in the country following their loss to LSU. Notre Dame, they have 2 ranked wins. Say what you want, they did take down Clemson in a hard-fought battle in South Bend, a Clemson team that, yes, maybe wasn't fully healthy, didn't have Trevor Lawrence, but DJ Uiagalelei was pretty dang good in that game. Notre Dame got the win there. They got a road win convincingly at North Carolina, who the committee views as the 15th ranked team in the country. And obviously road wins way more and are more impressive than home wins. A&M beat Florida at home. Not to take anything away from the Aggies and their win over the Gators, but I look at Notre Dame, I think their resume is better, and I just don't see how you can take Notre Dame, who was 2nd in the country, and drop them 3 spots and put in a Texas A&M team who did not make their conference championship, who did not win the SEC, again, who has had a relatively easy path and easy schedule this year outside of Alabama. I don't see how you can put them in at number 4 and drop the Fighting Irish 3 spots. Just don't see how you can do that. I know that's the discussion right now. That's going to be the suspense here in a few hours is whether or not A&M somehow slips in there ahead of Notre Dame or possibly Ohio State, although I don't think that's happening. But I think Notre Dame is a playoff team. I think it would be very wrong to boot them out after one loss. I kept saying if they lost by 28 or more, they could maybe justify doing that. That late touchdown for the Fighting Irish may have saved them, only losing by 24. So if that's the case, and I believe this is going to be the case, Alabama versus Notre Dame, and then a rematch, Ohio State, Clemson. Those will be your 2 college football playoff semifinal games. Those will be your 2 games, and that's what we think is going to happen here. A&M will be 5, and we have Cincinnati at 6. The committee has made it clear they do not care about the group of 5, so more than likely Cincinnati will not be 6. I could very well see Oklahoma being at number 6 in the final set of rankings because they defeated Iowa State, who was the 6th ranked team in the country. So Oklahoma could jump from 10th to 6th. It's not going to be Iowa State. It's not going to be Florida. It would be wrong to put Georgia at 6 above the American champion in Cincinnati or the Big 12 champion Oklahoma. So it's going to be the Bearcats or the Sooners. I believe it should be Cincinnati, a team that has been snubbed and disrespected all year long. But don't be surprised if it is Oklahoma. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Both are going to a New Year's Six bowl game. Both aren't making the playoffs. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what their final ranking is. These top 4, that's what matters. And these should be your top 4 teams here in just a few hours. So there you go, guys. That's our top 6. Our top 6 going into Selection Sunday. Again, I will be shocked if it's anything different. I really, really will. Again, maybe the matchups are different. Maybe the seeds are different. But these should be your 4 teams that are playing for a spot in the national championship game. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's move on to the game recaps very quickly. Friday night, we had 3 big games. And the underdog in all 3 of those games won. How about that? If you had a parlay, if you had something like that, and you bet on the underdog, and I don't know how much money you would have won. I would have liked to have known. But if you had UAB, Ball State, and Oregon all winning on Friday night in those conference championship games, you probably made a decent amount of money. Let's start with UAB in the Conference USA. The Blazers and Bill Clark continuing, really, to me, to amaze. They shut down their football program a few years ago. What did they come back in 2017? Came back in 2017 and have now won their 2nd Conference USA title in the last 3 years. That's unbelievable. An unbelievable job from the Blazers. They went on the road, beat Marshall 22-13. They dominated. They dominated the Thundering Herd. They were a dang good team, guys. Thundering Herd a few weeks ago were a top 20 team. They lost 20-0 to Rice and lost at home to UAB. Marshall was outgained by 200 yards. Marshall one of the top rushing defenses in the country, allowed UAB to rush for 216 yards. It doesn't help the Thundering Herd either that their quarterback, Grant Wells, started off 0 for 10. Could not hit a pass. It's not the way you want to bounce back after throwing 5 interceptions against Rice. So Marshall, early on, seemed to be doomed from the start. They tried to battle back and make it a game. They did, but every time they did, UAB had an answer. So congratulations to UAB and Bill Clark. Again, amazing job they're doing down in Birmingham. Second Conference USA title in the last 3 years. Ball State, how about them over in the MAC? Buffalo was a 2-touchdown favorite over the Cardinals. But Ball State said, we don't care about that. We've been an underdog all year long. No one expected anything from us this year. And the Cardinals went in there and won the MAC for the first time since 1996, and they did it convincingly, beating the Bulls 38-28. The major turning point in this game was towards the end of the first half, where the Cardinals scored 3 touchdowns in 5 minutes and 55 seconds. In less than 6 minutes, they scored 3 touchdowns. They went into halftime up 35-21. Buffalo was stunned. Jarrett Patterson, I know, got hurt in that game. I know he came back. He wasn't fully the same. But even when he was healthy, Ball State was shutting him down. And that has been the key for Buffalo all year long. Kyle Van Treese, give him credit. He did everything he could to keep the Bulls in this game, but it simply wasn't enough. Ball State made Buffalo one-dimensional, and they made them one-dimensional in the passing game, the area that has not necessarily been their strength this year. And the Cardinals, again, pulling off, I think, one of the bigger upsets on Friday night with that win over the Bulls, finishing the season at 6-1. Over in the Pac-12, how about Oregon? You come into this season before COVID, and Oregon as a college football playoff contender, they're the heavy favorite to win the Pac-12. COVID hits, it's a shortened Pac-12 season. Oregon is still the favorite to win the North. They're still the favorite to win the Pac-12. Well then, Oregon loses to Oregon State. Then they lose to Cal. And the Ducks have gone from a top 15 team to unranked, and a showdown against Washington would decide the North. Well, that showdown was canceled. Washington would win the North. And then Washington had too many COVID issues. So Oregon, by default, went to the Pac-12 championship game. I mean, guys, you can't make this stuff up. Oregon shouldn't have even been in this Pac-12 title game, and yet they went in there and took down number 13 USC. Upset number 13 USC. What was it, 31-24? And again, you look at Oregon and the job that Mario Cristobal has done with this team. Their defense has been so lackluster this season. They were, not very good against Washington State, not good against UCLA, definitely not good against Oregon State. So their defense was supposed to be so good, and they struggled, but they saved their best performance for the biggest game of the year. That's a sign of a good coach. That's a sign of a good team. We knew the talent was there for the Ducks. They showed it on Friday night. And you look at this. USC outgained Oregon by 115 yards. Oregon won this game by throwing for just 108 yards. They had 108 combined passing yards between Tyler Shuck and Anthony Brown. But the key was turnovers. Oregon forced 3 interceptions off of Keaton Slovis. 3 of Oregon's touchdown drives started inside the USC 45. So 3 of their 4 touchdown drives, guys, started in USC territory. Credit to their defense, credit to their special teams. That's how you win a ball game. So the turnovers, the favorable field position, the offensive efficiency. Everybody has praised Joe Moorhead and the job that he has done up in Oregon. The former Mississippi State head coach taking that offensive coordinator position, and you've seen a drastic change in terms of play calling and efficiency from this Oregon offense. So Oregon, despite being a 2-loss team, they have won the Pac-12. They're going to what appears to be the Fiesta Bowl. And again, they played the championship game they probably never should have been in. You can't make this stuff up, but again, all the credit in the world for the Ducks for rising to the challenge, rising to the occasion. They weren't favored to win. They've had a lackluster season by their standards, considering the expectations they had, and yet they made the most of it, and they've won 2 straight Pac-12 titles. King of the Pac-12 until proven otherwise. All right, let's move on to Saturday. Big Ten. We talked about Ohio State over here, number 3 in the country for us now. We believe they are going to the college football playoff. We believe they will be the 3 seed because Notre Dame got annihilated. But they struggled against Northwestern, guys. They struggled against Northwestern. They took down the 14th ranked team in the country 22-10, but they trailed for a good portion of this game. They were down 10-6 at half. They were down 10-6 until there was 2:41 remaining in the third quarter. They outscored the Wildcats 16-0 in the second half. So that's the storyline you need to look at. Slow start, sluggish game all the way around, but they did shut out Northwestern in that second half and pulled away to win by double digits. Here's the thing, though. I simply think, genuinely, Northwestern outplayed Ohio State. I'm not an Ohio State hater. You Ohio State guys, anytime someone criticizes you, you think they're a hater. They're not. I'm not. But Northwestern outplayed Ohio State in this game. Northwestern made too many mistakes and simply did not have, I think, the talent and the stamina to keep up in this one. But you look at Northwestern. Interception in the end zone, a chance to take a 17-6 lead. Even if they don't get that, they could have maybe kicked a field goal, 13-6. So they failed to get points there. They did miss a field goal, and they had 3 turnovers. A lot of those turnovers coming on decent drives. Big plays. They're starting to get into Ohio State territory. They turn the ball over, come away empty-handed. That's crucial. Credit to Ohio State for getting them. But Northwestern, I think, gave Ohio State a bigger fight in this one than people thought. Remember, the Buckeyes were 20.5-point favorites going into this game. And I know Ohio State was missing, 27 players, and that happened right before kickoff. One of them was Chris Olave, star wide receiver. I get that. Good teams have to find a way to win, and Ohio State did just that. And they did that by relying on Trey Sermon, not Justin Fields, who looked horrible. 114 yards and 2 interceptions, 0 passing touchdowns for Justin Fields. Trey Sermon carried this team, setting a school record for 331 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. 331 rushing yards from Trey Sermon in this game. So unbelievable performance. Again, Northwestern, a very solid defense, much improved team this year from a 3-9 squad we saw last year. But let me tell you, Trey Sermon's not going to rush for 331 yards against Clemson. That's not going to happen. So Justin Fields either has to step it up. They're going to have to find a way to get more balance. They're going to have to cut down some turnovers themselves. Again, Ohio State won. They're going to the playoff whether you like it or not. I'm not criticizing Ohio State. I'm not a hater of Ohio State, but I am saying the performance against Northwestern has to be concerning, and there are a lot of things that have to be improved before you take on one of the top teams in the country that just took down the number 2 team in the country by 24 points. Should be a great rematch, but Ohio State still has a lot to work on. Over to the Big 12. Number 10, Oklahoma, handing Iowa State, the 6th-ranked team in the country, handing them a devastating loss in the Big 12 championship game. The Sooners now have won 6 straight Big 12 titles. This was one of the better games of Conference Championship weekend, one of the better games on Saturday. And it didn't look like it was going to be. Oklahoma was on a completely different level in that first half. They led 24-7 at halftime. They led 24-7 for basically the entire third quarter before Iowa State finally cut it to 24-14. Iowa State woke up in that second half. I know they didn't score till late, but they got that touchdown. Then they got another one. They just started chipping away at this Oklahoma lead. The defense woke up. The offense started making plays. And you look at this, though, guys. I mean, again, kind of like Northwestern, in that second half, Iowa State absolutely outplayed Oklahoma in the second half, not the first half. But in the second half, they did it. But Brock Purdy ended up being Iowa State's kryptonite, a guy that we were praising in our predictions, a guy that we were praising over the last few weeks for how well he has played down the stretch. He was the kryptonite. And a veteran quarterback like Brock Purdy cannot make the mistakes the way he did. You look at that final drive for Iowa State. They were inside, the Oklahoma 35? Purdy had a wide open lane on 1st and 10. Could have taken off and easily gotten the ball inside Oklahoma's 25, if not Oklahoma's 20. Decided to throw the ball. It was incomplete. No harm, no foul, except you could have picked up a lot of yards. Then you had back-to-back false starts. Back-to-back false starts got to move you back 10 yards. So you're already in a bad position as it is. Iowa State has 1 timeout left. On the interception that Brock Purdy threw, they rushed to get that play off so they can conserve that last timeout. They rushed to get it off. Brock Purdy under pressure, rolled right, decided just to jack it up there. That's not a move you make if you're a veteran quarterback. And naturally, it was intercepted by Oklahoma. That interception, 1 of 3 interceptions for Brock Purdy in this game. So his mistakes His inability, look, he had plenty of good plays in there. He escaped the pocket at times. He sacrificed his body at times. He did have a passing touchdown, so you can't put all the blame on him. Part of the blame can go on the special teams, allowing too many big Oklahoma kickoff returns. Part of it can go on the defense for allowing 24 first-half points and not being able to get off the field. But at the end of the day, on that final drive, down 6, a chance to win your first Big 12 title in history, you cannot make those type of mistakes. You cannot make those type of mistakes, and that's exactly what Brock Purdy did. Now, another thing I will add, again, credit to Lincoln Riley, credit to Oklahoma for getting the job done, credit to Spencer Rattler for having a very solid game. You know, he started off so poorly at the beginning of the year. He has been hot in the middle of this now 7-game winning streak for Oklahoma, one of the hottest teams in the country over the last few months. So credit in the world to them for getting the job done. But I know what many Iowa State fans will say, and I will be in agreement with you on this. The officials were terrible. I know that they have not necessarily made or might not have decided the game entirely, but the officials were bad. And it was bad from the start. 30 seconds into the game, and they call targeting on Hasheem Young, the guy that had the game-winning interception off of Spencer Rattler when these two teams met back in Ames. Interesting, kind of poetic how that happens, right? The guy that has the game-winning interception gets ejected 30 seconds into the game for a targeting call that absolutely was not targeting. Funny how that works. And then you had the offsides that had Matt Campbell literally in flames, furious. I mean, you read his lips. Go back and watch him read his lips. I would have been saying the exact same thing. Oklahoma jumps off sides twice and there are no flags thrown? You literally have to be blind to see that. You have to be blind to not see that. It was unbelievable. Yes, Iowa State ended up picking a first down. They ended up extending that drive, but how do you not call offsides there? It was blatant. So the questionable targeting call on one of the top defensive backs for the Cyclones, no offsides calls, plenty of other calls throughout the game that did not go in favor of the Cyclones, and maybe they should have, makes you wonder, really, the integrity of the game, makes you wonder the integrity of the officials, something that we've been questioning not just in this game, but in countless games all across the country. The officials have been historically bad in this historically wild college football season, and it's unfortunate they made so many bad calls in this game against the Cyclones, or for the Cyclones. Again, one of the biggest games in program history. But again, can't blame the refs for everything. The Cyclones certainly did have their chances. They overcame that, had a chance to win it in the final drive, and just were unable to convert. Couple games left here. ACC Championship. Clemson, Notre Dame, number 2, number 3. The Tigers annihilated the Fighting Irish, 34-10. This game reminded me a lot of the last time these two teams met in the college football playoff. You know, Notre Dame jumped out to a 3-0 lead. They were playing very well. People thought, hey, maybe the Fighting Irish are going to hang in this one. They're going to contend, give them a battle. And after that, it was all downhill. Notre Dame got the interception. Looked like they could make a 10-0 lead. Said they get held to a field goal. They shanked the field goal, so they missed out on taking a 6-0 lead. And after that, Clemson scored points on their next 4 possessions. They were up 24-3 at halftime. They scored 34 straight points before Notre Dame finally punched in the end zone with 8 minutes and 9 seconds remaining. The game was long gone, all but over by that point. So the Fighting Irish, again, that touchdown may have saved them in the playoff. Because I said 28 points or more, they might drop out. 24, still not great, but let's do keep in mind that Notre Dame was an 11-point underdog going into this game. So let's keep that in mind. They were 11-point underdogs going into this game. So Notre Dame didn't win, but when you're looking at the committee, can you really punish them for, not covering? I mean, let's think about that for a second. So they lost by 24, not great. They're going to get murdered by Alabama, don't get me wrong, but they're still a playoff team. They just have a lot to figure out. A lot to figure out, very similar to Ohio State here. But Clemson dominated. We saw what they could do when fully healthy against a good team. We haven't seen them at full strength against a very good team in a long, long time. Trevor Lawrence, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, had a 34-yard rushing touchdown as well. Travis Etienne, he was held to 28 rushing yards the first time they played Notre Dame. He had 124 rushing yards and a touchdown this time around. So Clemson's offense is great. We know their defense is phenomenal, shutting down a Notre Dame team that was averaging over 200 passing yards and 200 rushing yards per game. Shut them down, held Kyron Williams to just 50 rushing yards. I mean, when this team's healthy, when they're at full strength, they're nearly impossible to beat. And we very well could be on track to see yet another Alabama-Clemson national championship game if the Tigers continue to play the way they did in Charlotte on Saturday. Over to the Mountain West, real quick. Talk about history. Ball State made history. Ball State made history, winning for the first time since 1996. San Jose State made history in the Mountain West, winning their first Mountain West Conference championship. First one ever. First one in program history. And again, what an unbelievable story for the Spartans. A team that, again, has struggled for the last 2 decades. They're 24th in the country. They're taking on Boise State, the perennial Mountain West favorite, perennial New Year's Six bowl contender, taking on Boise State. The Spartans, despite being the higher-ranked team, despite having defeated every team they faced this year by at least double digits, they were 7-point underdogs. They were a full touchdown underdog. And what did they do? Nick Starkel, the quarterback, went out there and set a Mountain West title record with 453 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. San Jose State outgained Boise State by 274 yards. Spartans had 498 yards of offense. Boise had 224. They held the Broncos to just 3 rushing yards. They dominated. The Spartans dominated from start to finish, and they have now won every single game this year by at least 10 points. They have won every single game by double digits. This is a scary good team, and this was a scary, impressive showing from the Spartans. All the credit in the world to Brent Brennan and the job that he has done with the Spartans, slowly but surely building this team back up. They have a chance to finish undefeated, going to the postseason for the first time since, 2015, 2014? And I want to give one more shout out to San Jose State. How about the kicker? We don't give kickers in the special teams, we don't give them enough credit. But Matt Mercurio, the kicker, San Jose State won by 14. He was responsible for 14 points. Kicked 4 field goals and 2 extra points. How about that? To me, yeah, Starkel, he set a record, major reason, but Mercurio, the kicker, that's my hero. That's my player of the game for San Jose State. Last 2 games, real quick. American Athletic Conference. We have Cincinnati over here, the 6th-ranked team in the country in our rankings. They remained unbeaten. They wouldn't be up here if they had lost to Tulsa. They won a thriller against the Golden Hurricane, winning the American Athletic 27-24 on a Cole Smith game-winning field goal as time expired from 34 yards out. I want to give all the credit in the world to Tulsa first. No quitting this team. They find themselves down, they don't care. They came from behind against UCF and won. Came from behind against SMU, big, and won. Tulane, and won. They were down 10-0 against Cincinnati in the first quarter. Came back, tied it up at 10. The Golden Hurricane never led in this game, but they never showed any signs of quit, never showed any signs of negative energy, bad mojo. They throw an interception, they commit a turnover, they got a punt, bad play, bad penalty. They don't care. Philip Montgomery's squad was legit, and I think that they showed a lot of fight and showed they were legit. They showed they were deserving of that number 23 ranking. They showed that on Saturday night. At the end of the day, though, Desmond Ridder was just simply too much. Simply too much for this very good Tulsa defense. Ridder, 352 total yards. 352 total yards, 2 total touchdowns. Cincinnati's defense making enough plays down the stretch when it mattered the most. And the Bearcats finishing undefeated. They're off to a New Year's Six bowl game, more than likely the Peach Bowl, where they will more than likely take on Georgia. And that's going to be a good game, guys. Everybody's going to be picking Georgia in that game, but watch out. The Bearcats have been for real. They have not gotten the respect that they deserve. And I would not be surprised to see them hang with Georgia in that game and possibly beat the Bulldogs as well. And our final game recap over in the SEC. This game lived up to the hype. We all know this should not have been a top 10 matchup. We all know Florida should have dropped out of the top 10 following that loss to LSU. We all know that Florida probably would not have made the college football playoff if they had miraculously defeated Alabama. Again, no team outside of the top 6 has ever made the Final Four. No team out of the top 6 going into championship weekend. So the odds were stacked against the Gators. But man, did they show some fight. Did they give us a game to remember? Did they give us a performance to remember? One that we probably all didn't think we'd see. Alabama defeated the Gators 52-46. A lot closer than I think a lot of people expected. The Crimson Tide 17-point favorites in this one. There were 1,067 yards of total offense between the Crimson Tide and the Gators. And this, to me, which it really was, it's just a simple back and forth game, trading shot for shot, touchdown for touchdown, score for score. And every time you thought Alabama had pulled away, every time you thought they had put the final nail in the coffin, Florida answered. They found a way to answer. It was 35-17 at halftime. Alabama was up 18 points. You don't come back down 18 points against Alabama. Florida thought they could, and they nearly did. They shut out that Alabama offense. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, shut them out in the third quarter. Florida scored 14 points of their own. So 35-17 quickly turned into 35-31. It was a 45-38 game, favor of the Tide, with 6.5 minutes left. But, again, every time that Florida scored, Alabama found a way to answer. We talk about back and forth, back and forth. Every time that Florida was nipping at Alabama's heels, we're going to come back, we're going to take the lead, Alabama found a way to make sure that didn't happen. Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, 2 Heisman Trophy contenders, 826 combined passing yards, 8 combined touchdowns. To me, though, the player of the game for the Crimson Tide has to be Najee Harris. Has to be the running back. Had 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had 3 reception touchdowns in this game. Keep in mind, coming into this one, Harris had 0 reception touchdowns. He had 3 in this game alone. Devontae Smith, another unbelievable performance. 184 reception yards, 2 touchdowns. He very well could win the Heisman. To me, he is the best player in college football. But again, you look back at Najee Harris. We mentioned in our Alabama-Florida preview video, Florida didn't have a rushing offense, and we knew that. We knew that if Florida wanted to have any chance of winning this game, they had to air it out, and they did a great job of that. Kadarius Toney, Kyle Pitts, Kyle Trask did an unbelievable job airing it out against this Alabama defense, making them look mortal. One of the better defenses in the country, allowed 46 points and, over 400 yards in the air. Unbelievable. But again, you look at it, Florida was one-dimensional, only a little over 50 rushing yards. Alabama was two-dimensional. Florida could not stop them. Alabama's defense came through when they needed it the most. Florida's was unable to. And there were 2 key plays in this game, guys. 2 key plays in this game that I think prevented Florida from pulling off this massive upset. One that still would have kept Alabama in the top 4. They just wouldn't have been the number 1 team. 2 key plays. The first was the fact that Alabama's defense held Florida to a field goal late in the first quarter. We always talk. You can't beat Alabama, and you really can't beat Clemson, can't beat those 2 teams with field goals. Got to get it in the end zone. I don't blame Dan Mullen for taking the points, but I honestly, for the entire course of the game, when I'm in Alabama territory, it is 4-down territory. If I'm in my own territory, I'll punt. If I'm in Alabama territory, we got to go for it because field goals do not beat the Tide. A touchdown there, the game would have been a little bit different, possibly. Second biggest play, I think you all know what I'm talking about. Mac Jones. He throws an interception. Florida, they're looking to return it. They finally got the turnover. They're winning the turnover battle. They can go convert off this turnover. And John Mechie, good God, laid an unbelievable hit. Florida fumbles. And who recovers it? Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith recovers it. So keep in mind, Devontae Smith, all the receiving yards, all the receiving touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown. Let's add a fumble recovery now to his name. But that play was key, guys, because the very next play, Alabama scored a touchdown to Devontae Smith. So let's think about that. You take away that touchdown, maybe Florida goes down and scores a touchdown. Maybe they don't kick a field goal, they score a touchdown there. So it's 52-46. You add 4 points. Instead of giving them the field goal, you give them a touchdown. It's 52-50. You add a touchdown or even a field goal off of the interception that Florida should have had instead of turning it right back to Alabama, and Florida wins the game. Those were the 2 biggest plays of the game to me that could have easily, had the roles been switched the outcome of this game. Florida pulled off the upset, and Alabama falls to number 2, number 3. They wouldn't have been number 1, but they would have stayed in. Those were the 2 biggest games. But it was all in favor of the Tide. Again, good teams find a way to win. Good teams find a way to make the plays when they matter the most. Alabama is that team. Alabama is a dang good team. They're number 1 for a reason, and they're going to be the national championship favorite for a reason. But again, all the credit in the world to Dan Mullen and the Gators. An unbelievable fight, unbelievable performance. Again, one that I don't think anybody thought was going to happen. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought Alabama was going to blow Florida out of the water. And the Gators showed they're still legit. They're still a dang good team. But 8-3, falling short of the playoff, not winning the SEC. Certainly not the outcome they were hoping for in this 2020 season. So there you have it, guys. Real quick, that was your conference championship recap. I know we touched on all the games, and I know in a lot of people's heads it doesn't even matter. Those games are over now. What we're focusing on is here in a few hours, looking at the Selection Sunday final set of rankings. Who is going to the college football playoff? Who is going to the New Year's Six bowl games? And what will the other bowl matchups be? Of course, a lot are going to get canceled with so many teams opting out. But whatever games are going to be played, we will be predicting every single one of them right here at the Gridiron Expert. And our against the spread picks for all those games will be over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, if, of course, you signed up for our expert picks. So we're going to have you covered every step of the way over these next few weeks, over the remainder of the season, all the way till January 11th. But again, here in a few hours, one of the biggest moments of the season, and it should be these four teams that pop up on your screen at 11 a.m. Central Time. Alabama should be facing off against Notre Dame. Clemson should be having a rematch against Ohio State. The winners of those two playing for the national championship on January 11th. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. We have so much more content coming your way in the following weeks. I promise you do not want to miss it, and you do not want to miss anything down in that description below. Exclusive content on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Our brand new merchandise, the link for that down in the description below. Our Bet Now offers, our Patreon account, all of that stuff that pertains to college football that will absolutely benefit you is right down there down in the description. So make sure to go give it a look. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time very soon right here on the Gridiron Expert.